Okay. Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Evi Afiatin. Some of you may have already know. I am the Secretary General of CFO Club Indonesia and formerly CFO of BP Jam Sostek for 2016 to February 2021. It is an honor for me to be your moderator for today's seminar, The Journey to Business Performance and Efficiency in a Cloud World. First of all, I would like to thank the CFO Club Indonesia to host this webinar. To our sponsors, PT Mitra, Patra, Konsulindo, and Amazon Web Service Indonesia, to distinguished guest speakers and panelists, and most of all, to all of you, the members of CFO Club Indonesia and other participants for attending this webinar. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me guide you through the agenda of today's webinar. The webinar will be open with welcoming speech from CFO Club Indonesia, represented by Mr. Prawira Atmaja, member of Board of Directors of CFO Club Indonesia. Then Ibu Nurni Setiadi, the President Director of PT Patra Mitra Konsulindo, will give the opening remark. The webinar will invite 3 guest speakers, 2 from Singapore and 1 from Indonesia. They will share their expertise and experiences on digital transformation and cloud-based adoption in the area of business spending, covering finance, procurement, and supply chain. Our discussion sessions will be divided into 2 sessions, that is panel discussion and question and answer sessions. Before entering the discussion session, we will have 5 minutes break to watch a video regarding business spend management. Well, without further ado, let's start our webinar. Here, I would like to invite Mr. Prawira Atmaja, member of Board of Directors of CFO Club Indonesia, for his welcoming speech. Prawira, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Evi. Very good morning to everyone here. I hope everyone are in good health and also the families are in good health. I think this is the most important nowadays, after above everything else. And I would like to welcome the member of CFO clubs as well as other colleagues who are not members of CFO clubs, but working for subordinates of the CFOs, because this topic is sometimes have some technicalities that CFO doesn't understand. And we have to admit that. Also to the sponsors, thank you for working together with us. And actually, this kind of event we have been having it from time to time, usually on a monthly basis, but sometimes more, because this type of event is basically equipping CFOs and their companies to be better in broad sense. But then today's topic is basically about business performance and efficiency, which is also one of the main responsibilities of CFOs, to make sure that the companies are performing, the companies are efficient, and today's topic is also relating to digitalization, which also relate to this topic today. A little bit background of CFO Club. I think because not everyone are members of CFO Club, we started the club as an informal gathering in 2016, so it's about 5 years ago, and by a few people, but then the members grew, and later we decided to make it formal. This is now an Association of Finance Directors Indonesia. That's the formal way, but our branding is CFO Club, and the members are basically CFOs of companies in Indonesia, but the background are quite diverse in terms of industries. It range from service to manufacturing to financial. So basically, we represent, our members represent almost all industries that are in Indonesia, and also the companies they are working or we are working for range from purely local companies, joint venture, until up to the big multinational companies. So it's a very unique and diverse background in terms of the company that we represent. And one of our mission is actually to equip CFOs to become a better CFO. And we also want to prepare the next CFOs. Yeah, we just had a discussion on that, how to prepare for our successors. And so we will probably will launch a certain program that will cater to this, because we have expiration date. Sooner or later we will be expiring. Some already expired, like myself. So we want to share our knowledge to our subordinates or other people, so that they can take over the CFO role in the future. And yeah, I think we will look forward to the sharing from Coupa, yeah, and the partners in Indonesia on how to help our companies to be more efficient, our business to perform better. And I think this is also relating to the digitalization that has been promoted or strongly encouraged by the Indonesian government, because we have basically get the benefits of digitalization for those who have been in that path, yeah, due to the pandemic. So companies who are already advanced on this topic, they perform. And I think one of the good news is last month in April, the procurement manager index was one of the highest in the past years. That's really amazing, despite all this restriction. But then I think that's also due to the digitalization, to the maybe some companies already adopted cloud computing that really helped the business to continue perform despite all these challenges and limitations due to the pandemic. Okay, I will stop here. So we will have more time to listen to our colleagues from Coupa. Again, thank you, and I hope this session will give us a lot of insights, a lot of benefits that we can apply it in our companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Parwira. And once again, thanks to the CFO Club Indonesia to host the webinar. Now, I would like to invite Ibu Nurni Setiadi, the President Director of PT Patra Mitra Konsulindo, for the opening remarks. Bu Nurni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bu Evi. Thank you, Pak Prawira. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Nurni Setiadi. I'm the President Director of Patra Mitra Konsulindo as a Coupa partner in Indonesia. So I would like to say thank you to CFO Club. It's a privilege for us to collaborate with the CFO Club at this webinar today. And also our sponsor, Coupa, and also Amazon Web Services Indonesia, and all CFO members. It's an honor to be here with you today in this webinar. As a President Joko Widodo vision of making Indonesia 4.0, I see this as a promise to a bright future for Indonesian economic transformation. According to PwC, in 2000, Indonesia is a 27 in the world's largest economy. Then Indonesia is in the 16th rank in 2010. So seeing this growth, I'm sure Indonesia economy will be fully flourished in 2030. Yes, the pandemic has affected all of us, but that does not stop us. Why? Because business always look for innovative way to continuously grow. Now we can start seeing how technology help us moving forward to fully embrace the digital economy. As what our President Joko Widodo said, it is the time for us to make fundamental changes in the business process system, for procurement especially. So we must invest in a system, not only fast, transparent, and countable, but also increasing value for money, for providing increase value for money by providing maximum value for the community. So it's up to us now. do we want to make these economic dreams come true, become reality? So enjoy the webinar today. See you all.
Thank you, Ibu Nuni, for reminding us that digital transformation or Indonesia 4.0 is one of the priority of the agenda of President Joko Widodo to support the economic growth of Indonesia and the progress of Indonesian people. Furthermore, the pandemic of COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation across the world. If before COVID-19, only few, if not one or two companies in Indonesia practice remote working or working from home, now almost all companies has imposed working from home. Even we have school from home, socialization from home, and seminar from home, like what we have now. Many business processes now has been transformed and adapting to this working from home situation with the help of IT technology and digitalization. And today, we will learn how a cloud-based business spend management platform can help transform your procurement and improve your bottom line and help you adapt to the new era of remote working. Our guest speakers and panelists will share their experiences and real-life stories about how other industry-leading companies have successfully managed their business plan to increase earnings. Without further ado, let's welcome our first guest speaker, Mr. Heru Sutadi. Mr. Heru Sutadi will discuss regulation in cloud adoption, data center location, and security and safety. Pak Heru is Indonesia ICT Institute Executive Director, the father of Indonesia digital economy. Pak Heru, you will have 10 minutes of presentation, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bu Evi, for the time. Good morning, everyone. Pak Prawira, Bu Nurni Setiadi, also distinguished panelists and valuable participant from the CFO Club Indonesia. I am very honored to be here to share about the cloud trend in Indonesia and especially about the regulation, because you know that Indonesia changed the regulation regarding data center since 2019. Before we have the regulation in 2012, and now it's changed. Maybe for the first, I would like to share about the. Can you see our my presentation on the screen? Okay, thank you. So maybe we know that why now we use cloud computing. I would like to explain about the background. That's because you know, if we have own data center or own server, usually sometimes we have idle capacity, so we use more electricity, and the cost also is different rather than if we use it's like data center. We share data center with other companies, something like that. And also, if the technology change, we have to buy the new data center, new server, and also many things, I think. So while now many company try to use cloud computing, that's because also that's we have the go green concept, because the electricity is more efficient. We use some server, some data center with the many company for that, and also it's easy for us not to think much about how if the technologies change. Maybe you know that our technology is very fast. That's a background why we adopt the cloud computing. For the cost reduction, before we use the capex. If we adopt the cloud computing, we use opex. Also risk reduction, and also it's more flexible if we use the cloud computing, I think. The challenge is about security. service level agreement, and also performance, availability, something like that. But we have some benefit, as I mentioned before, about agility, and then the company can focus in the core business, not on the technology, and also we can control OPEX and rapid deployment if we use cloud computing. And this is the trend cloud computing in Indonesia. And you know that in Indonesia we can use some of the cloud technology or cloud choice or model business, infrastructure as services, or software as services, and also platform as services. And maybe I can share about the Indonesian situation right now. As you know that Indonesia, we have 270, almost 275 population. And right now, internet users is around 202 million, 0.6. That's mean it's already 73.7% from the population. And also for the mobile connection, we have 345.3 million subscriber. This is the data from the We Are Social Hootsuite, January 2001. So maybe you ask why the mobile subscriber is more than our population, 125.6%. So I can explain that this because maybe between us, every population in Indonesia, maybe they have more than one mobile. So like me, I have 2 number. So the government calculate me as 2 subscriber or 2 number for that. So maybe the more precise for 345.3 is SIM card penetration, not subscribers. Yeah. That's for the internet user. So maybe I can share also about the how long we watch we use the internet, so we can compare with the other services. You know that for Indonesian, we spend to use the internet in one day is around 8 hours 42 minutes. Even that's lower than like in Thailand, they already 9 hours, something like that. But this increase, yeah, before we only about 7 hours per day we use the internet. But that's very that's bigger than time spent Indonesian people watch the television. Yeah, for the television right now is only 2 hours 50 minutes, and also even the internet, we can use the internet for many activity. So many Indonesian people spend their time using social media in 3 hours 14 minutes. And this is the most social media platform that maybe you know that many of us using YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter every day. So the We Are Social and Hootsuite put the most used social media platform, and for the top social media and streaming video application is WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, also TikTok. Yeah, maybe you like TikTok. So we spend 13.8 hours per month to use TikTok as well. And what happened in 2020? Before Bu Evi mentioned that pandemic changed everything in Indonesia, not only in Indonesia, I think in global situation. Yeah, but especially in Indonesia, you know that we work from home. Yeah, many company right now still work from home. Even they try to, some days the employee have to come to the office, but mostly still work from home because the pandemic still around us, and also school from home. Even the government mentioned that maybe July they will open the school, but yeah, we're still waiting for that. And the others is we sell and buy from home. So maybe you active in a marketplace or something, you can buy from Tokopedia or maybe Shopee or something like that. So yeah, even we are in pandemic, we still have to work. The life must goes on, something like that. So even pandemic, the Indonesian situation for digital economy is still stable, and also some telecommunication operators said that their traffic increased until 40%. And also since 2018-19, we talk about the industry 4.0. It's like Bu Evi said, also Bu Nuni said that we adopt industry 4.0. So we talk about the cloud computing, big data analytics, Internet of Things, mobile apps in many sectors, and also artificial intelligence. And because of that, our President Pak Joko Widodo said that pandemic COVID-19 is the momentum for digital transformation. So the government have some agenda regarding digital transformation about the infrastructure, data security, data protection and security, human capital development in the digital sector, and also supportive regulatory framework that support the digital transformation agenda in Indonesia. Because we know that pandemic makes digital is more important. And about the cloud trend in Indonesia, the growth is very fast, and we can see that double-digit growth during 2014-2019. That's because growing mobile consumption and increasing demand for disaster recovery services. That's driving the cloud market in Indonesia, and also global cloud provider developing their own data center in Indonesia to tap the market, and also, as I said before, making Indonesia 4.0 initiative contribute the growth of the cloud computing in Indonesia as well. About the cloud regulation, maybe I can share 4 slides for this. Before, you know that we have a government regulation number 82/2012. Now it's changed, become government regulation number 71/2019. That's before, in a government regulation number 82/2012. The government said that first, government encouraged the use of the cloud, but there is obligation to place data center and data recovery center in Indonesia. But after that, it's changed to become government regulation number 71/2019. That government divided electronic system operator become 2, public operator and the private operator. Public operator, it means include that agency and institution appointed by agency that they serve their services for the public. But for this public scope electronic system operator is not included for the financial sector, because for the financial sector they have their own regulation based on the Financial Service Authority and Central Bank, Bank Indonesia. So it's exception from this regulation. And the other is private scope electronic system operator. That include electronic system operator that's regulated and supervised by Ministry of Institution based on the provision of law and regulation, and electronic system operators that have portal, site, or application in the network through the internet. And maybe I can share also that for the public electronic system operator are required to manage, process, and or store data electronic system in the territory of Indonesia. Data can be managed, processed, and or stored outside Indonesia if the technology is not available in Indonesia. That's the first.
Time is only 10 minutes, ya Pak. Just
okay, maybe 1 minute. 1 minute more. And the criteria for storage technology is not available domestically and determined by the committee. But for the private sector is allowed to put the data center outside Indonesia. Even for that, the private scope electronic operator is obligated to ensure the effectiveness of supervision by ministry or institution and law enforcement. Maybe that's all from my presentation. If you have any question, please not hesitate to ask me, or maybe if not in this event, maybe you can send email to my private email. Thank you once again, Bu Evi.
Thank you, Pak Heru, for sharing with us. Pak Heru has already mentioned that the benefit of using cloud computing. There are so many benefits of using cloud computing, and also the trend was quite good, ya Pak ya. It's around 19% average the growth from 2016 to 2020. And also, most important thing that Pak Heru has already show us that most of Indonesian, if not all, most of Indonesian are very mobile telecommunication, digitalized technology, social media friendly. This will create opportunity for businesses in Indonesia. I think maybe some CFOs start to look at this opportunity for their companies. Thank you, Pak Heru, for your sharing. Now, I would like to invite our second guest speaker, Mr. Lalit Ambirajan. Pak Lalit will share with us regarding technology-enabled procurement and supply chain to capture value. Mr. Lalit is senior expert at McKinsey & Company in Singapore and leader of McKinsey's operations and procurement and product development practice in Southeast Asia. He has served leading companies in the oil, metals and mining, automotive, advanced industries, and consumer packaged goods sector across the region. Pak Lalit, you have 10 minutes and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. I have about 10 minutes. I have some content I would like to walk through quickly. So I might move through the pages quickly, but feel free to stop me or ask me questions after. Just very quickly defining, what tech-enabled ops or next generation procurement would look like, procurement supply chain here. And there's a very clear definition, right, which talks about using advanced analytics, big data, process automation, and new collaboration models to work with suppliers and business users to significantly improve procurement function, supply chain function for a higher impact. Now, very clearly, what I mean by here, advanced analytics, it basically means advanced optimization, algorithms, heuristic, machine learning, AI applications, which is in short beyond Excel, beyond whatever we were doing in Excel. Anything which is more than that is then part of advanced analytics. Same way, if I look at big data, I mean beyond just ERP and transactional data, combining diverse sources, which could come from your suppliers, which could come from operations, which could come from logistics and warehousing, but really creating a much larger data lake to try and do big data analysis, right? That's the second most important thing. And third is on collaboration models. I'm sure we all understand what process automation is, but beyond that, collaboration models, really transparent real-time sharing of information within the team, across different cross-functional stakeholders, but across organization boundaries to go to suppliers or to go to customers, and then collect all of that information and then take real-time collaborative decision-making. That's what I mean by that. So this is where we are headed. This is what we want to do. And if any of these elements is missing, then you are not yet in next-gen procurement, just to be clear about that. What it takes is a lot of things to bring everything together, right? But primarily, if you see the top of this house, which is business objectives, so having a very clear business lens, that's the most important thing. Second is analytics and tech stack and data backbone. So that I would call digital and analytics DNA, if you will. So that's the second most important thing which is there. And lastly, something which supports all of that is then the operating model. All right, which is about culture and change management, talent and capability building, communications, organization, how you decide to work together, design thinking in your approach, and so on. Right. So these are the three key things: business mindedness, analytics and data and tech, and then finally the operating model. Yeah. Now, let me just walk through what I mean by some of them. Now, the way we build the solution, we have three types of solution archetypes. One, we have an end-to-end solution. So Coupa, Ariba, Evalua, these are all basically good examples of what is an end-to-end business solution. They connect directly with your transactional system, which is your ERP, and then they support you across end-to-end, right? And then there are partial solutions, GP, which I should also rightly push into the end-to-end solution now. And then there are a few more archetypes who started with a certain depth in certain area, and then they started to increase their width across the source to pay process, right? So what you see out here is the source to pay process, which is this one. And you will see that a little bit more again. And then there are point solutions, which means that across the process at every point, you might have something which is then a solution which you might actually input, right? And these are the three solution archetypes. Typically what we prefer is we have one end-to-end solution, and then we bolt on top of that as required, as per value. And this is what we try to do, right? Tech-enabled ops is not just for tech enablement, it is to capture value. But wherever we think that there is a value loss because we are not sharp enough, because we don't have enough data, we try to bolt on the apps that we want on that. Yeah, some of it might be provided by this underlying software. For example, Coupa, great in many things, spend management, for example. You could probably use that, or you could use another best of breed operation solution to kind of bolt on what a point-to-point system would be. Now, just trying to understand what this means that if I were to start from identifying and creating value all the way to setting up my contracts about here, and then as I start exercising the contracts, preventing value leakage, right? Until I kind of pay my suppliers all the way. So this is the entire source to pay system. And what we've done is we've analyzed and we've come up with about 12 key use cases, which are very high ROI, which actually drive value a lot better than many other things. So this is not digitization for the sake of digitization, but really looking at what are those few things which will really turbocharge whatever I do and bring me more value over time, right? So we start with spend intelligence, very high, first and foremost, which is what we are also going to talk about today a lot more. And then, of course, there is category strategy. How do we deploy it? How do we do should cost analysis? How do we collaborate with business and users inside, qualify suppliers, source them electronically, work on negotiations together. And then, of course, the prevent value leakage part, which is procure to pay process, automated compliance management, supplier performance cards, and then basically capability building for the teams, right? Now, how you would assess is first we assess the digital maturity. So across each of these 12 items that you see, these are all these solutions or use cases. We try and see where the company is. So this is basically the map that we built, and how far is the gap between you and what is best in your industry sector, right? So that's the assessment that you do to kind of have the gap analysis. Then the next one would be on each of these key dimensions, what is that gap costing you in terms of value capture opportunity, right? So how much more could you capture here if you had this in place? And then what allows you to then do is you can quantify the saving opportunities. You can also try and understand the time to implement some of them. They are not going to be overnight. And then you build your roadmap for implementation. And this is an example of how it is done, right? So again, going from the start to end, this is for a metals plant that we did. But what you can come up with is very specifically, if you did ERFX, what is the kind of opportunity that you might get? If you did something like, say, commodity price prediction, you could get about 1.1 to 2 percentage points improvement, right? If you did cash control, you could get about 5 to 10 percentage point improvements, and so on. So you could pretty much add these things, and you can basically say, okay, by the amount of spend they control, how much percentage points can I get? So on the overall, what will be my overall percentage point improvement? That's how you probably draw it out. That's the vision that you then share with your stakeholders, with your leadership, and that's how you then commit yourself to go in and get this program done. Now, let me also talk about what happens to these transformation programs, right? Our research shows that majority of them, and that's about 70% plus, right? They are still in what we call a pilot purgatory. That means that you are doing the pilot, but you're not getting out of it, right? And the pilots have been going on for a long time, right? So 15%, which are less than 1 year, 56% in the 1 to 2 years mark, and then there are 28% which is going over 2 years, right? So you've done the pilot, but you're not taking any decisions to move forward, and it is not scaling up in the organization. You cannot get value unless you scale up. So that's the other very important dimension that you need to think about. The proof of concept might be great, the pilot might go well, but if you can't scale up across all BUs, all commodities, this is not going anywhere. And what you can see, this is again, we kind of surveyed about 76 supply chain experts. This is a supply chain based approach on what are pilots which are working. And you can kind of draw a line saying from here onwards, right? You kind of go into more selective usage. So until here, you're still in the pilot mode. And you can see very few technologies progress ahead. Thank you, Book. So that's the basic problem. And then the reason for that is the kind of importance we accord to various things. So if I were to again look at our lens, business, analytics, and tech and operating model, business is about 25% of our concern is around business, 60%. So we are over-indexed on the analytics and tech part, and we ignore, our operating model, the capability building, the culture, and so on, a lot more. Ideally, what is required as per experiences, you should be around 50% of the times worried about the operating model. This is what helps you scale and make things sustainable. 30% business, because otherwise you'll be investing in the wrong kind of things. And the remaining 20% is on the tech, right? So this is the kind of formula, if you will, for sustainability and for value capture over a period of time. Otherwise, you will be in pilot purgatory. And the skills that you need are very different from what we have before, right? So we need agile skills, software engineering and design, which we don't normally have. Some very core different skills like DTV expertise, technology leadership, data engineering, data science, and so on. So to sum up, right, what we found with successful companies who use tech-enabled ops to drive value capture, they start small, but they have a full vision in mind. Like the page that I drew up before, we're talking about all the various things that will come in and continue on to give you benefits. Second, they run a significant number of use cases, not 1 or 2 or 3, but somewhere around 10 to 15 advanced use cases, right? That's what they do. They work in an agile mode, and then they look at what is the benefit, how can you tweak it further, what do you need to change, and get to improving it, right? And it is done in weeks, not in years. They index on capability building. They engage their broader workforce to come up with people. They make cells with people who are empowered, they're given autonomy, and they're asked to run these use cases. So about 10 to 15 use cases, 3 people each. You're talking about at least 50, 60 people who are directly involved, and then multiple people who are then engaged in terms of the entire workforce. And then you build an IoT architecture, which allows you to scale up these POCs as and when they prove to be successful. into a much broader development. This is all I had for today. I'd love to talk more and happy to have any questions now or after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Lalit. Pak Lalit has shown that IT technology has grown so fast. We have artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, big data, and more collaborative models across the technology. And Pak Lalit also mentioned there are 3 types of digital solution: end-to-end solution, partial solution, or point solution. Pak Lalit, this is the most important thing, has already shared with us how to do the gap analysis on our organization and share how to start to fill the gap and how it is done for the successful of digital transformation. This is very, very useful discussion and sharing, of course, Pak Lalit. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome our third guest speaker, Mr. Ramon Ngan. He will present how to drive real value from your business plan strategy. Mr. Raymond is an experienced digital evangelist with a demonstrated history of working with businesses to innovate, be more agile, and drive business outcome by leveraging digital transformation. He has helped many organizations in the ASEAN to embark and realize the benefit of business spend management. Mr. Raymond is Coupa Regional VP Sales of Asia. Mr. Raymond, you will have 10 minutes presentation and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Boo. I'd like to share a bit about what SPAN is, business SPAN, and what does it mean following up from the presentation that Lalit has put forward, measuring real value. Because what is more important is this: we understand from a SPAN perspective, SPAN is like water, right? It's basically, are you getting the best value out of every dollar you spend? And we look at this diagram and say, look, it's a river, right? Ultimately, whatever that flows through over time, SPAN will take the path of least resistance, and whatever that's hurdle in between, it will just flow through. What that simply means is this: the challenges we face today, for example, in companies, we have supply chain, we have got multiple processes and sub-processes that goes in, right? Down to the point where they are, for example, in supply chain to it. And the company has always been built on a silo basis that manage this so today's tool that's built for scale that combination is not only available when it is captured in the books, right? That's the reason why limited visibility when these processes are disjointed will drive problems such as not able to look at what are the pre-approved POs, right? A lot of post-approval that comes through which you cannot control. And of course, at times also, when the non-PO based invoice comes in, you have a lot of unapproved spend, but you got to pay. So leading to that, these are also areas where we want to know they are unknown risk exposure, because with COVID, we have noticed with border closure, we all scramble to actually look for new sources. New sources in this case means that the suppliers that we put on a hurry, we don't actually get to vet them properly. That's the part where supply X-ray comes. You want to know whether they are credible, not credible, sustainable, and all that comes through. Yeah, so this is part of the challenge when we have that risk. It's just that we don't know when the time bomb, will take off. And the list goes on, saving leakages. And of course, if you do not deploy all this spend correctly, you have got a suboptimal cash management that comes through. Yeah. Now, that's the reason why I say, if you have silo applications or you don't design everything in flow, it's like you have a pipe and you put a lot of bandage trying to keep the water from leaking. But over time, this is going to drain a lot of resources. So one thing we look at is this: how does Coupa help empower organization maximize the value of every dollar of the spend, right? So we are a leader in this space. In short, when we talk about business spend management, BSM, is to ensure that any spend that you put forward, whether it's direct, indirect, is being managed. You have got full visibility to see what's going on. You have control to drive policies that you run to manage that. Yeah, and of course, an example of this is looking at how supply chain, when you're having a design planning outcome that's being put forward, driven through a whole procurement cycle, whether you're looking at source to contract, looking at the risk factor that I brought through earlier, and really down to the procurement where you buy and ensure that your PO, goods received, and invoice are all tied up. And of course, when it goes to finance, is always where, is this the right invoice that has been approved for payment? Now, this diagram, in a way, simplifies this whole measure. Let me just give you an example of this, right? Now, example of this is really looking at how do I ensure when I'm doing a design network planning, ensuring the capacity model that's identified for the sourcing need is automatically translated to a procurement event. So, for example, in certain part of the country, a plant is being shut down. So when that happens, that means this plant that's supposed to produce the materials needed is in shortage. Now, when we talk about optimizing this, we want to make sure that we are able now to do a what if simulation. And when the moment I notice this happen, how do I trigger this immediately to a sourcing event to find the right, for example, in this case, transportation services, to ensure that when this happens, I have got the right supplier that's been identified, put through a contract, and deliver these goods. This is just one simple example where we are looking at what if scenarios in this case, and the design that's put forward automatically trigger a sourcing event for you. Yeah. Now, when we talk about application, we are ensuring that every single piece of the silos that I showed earlier, whether from supply chain, procurement, invoicing, we want to ensure that we have got a clear business goal that we have attached to. That's where real business value comes. Coupa, we all, in a way, being designed and also decided on. For example, in the areas of procurement or spend visibility, we always look at what are the percentage of pre-approved spend that we want to target. And the best in class of Coupa users and Coupa customers have hit a 98% pre-approved spend. Now, from a digitalization perspective, we are not only talking about internal users in your company uses a software or an application, it's also how your suppliers are adopting it, right? So this is where we look into how PO is being sent to them electronically, and how finance is actually able to find a first match against the PO. And this is probably where the invoice that comes through, you have got a first pass through on a match. That's 90% in Coupa. And more importantly, how do we drive compliance, right? Because like I said earlier in my presentation, spend is like water. If the process is too, well, I'll probably say too tight, or applications too difficult to use, you have users who are always trying to beat the system. In this case, we want to ensure that an application is designed in a way to capture this spend easier, and that's where we are measuring spend under contract, right? And that's 81% based on our benchmark. Now, let's do a quick introduction of what Coupa does. This is one of the top applications we have in the Gartner quadrant. Yeah. In this, what I mean is that for the past 5 years in a row, Gartner and many other analysts has named us the #1, right, business spend management tool in the world for the past 5 years. So what do we really do, right? So first of all, we talk about spend visibility. Every single dollar that's spent by a company, whether through a PO or through a claim, or none of this PO or claim, it comes through just an invoice, has to be captured at a call. So we make it really simple for users to ensure that these transactions are being captured. Now, we always hear that data is the new oil, right, for the world, because this is where if you don't have data, you cannot run information. So we want to ensure that every single transaction is being captured. When you have the transaction, now you're able to analyze, right? What do you have there and what opportunities can you design to extract more value? The use cases that Lalit showed earlier is really based upon the data that you have. So we look into how do we source better, and when we source better, ensuring that the contract is in place and put back into the business for them to buy better, and the whole other applications that comes through it is a closed loop synergy. Yeah. So what we do in Coupa is that we ensure that this information is captured correctly. Today we have about 2.3 trillion spent under management. And we do what Google Maps, if this route A and it's 23 minutes. In the middle of your journey, if there's an accident or traffic jam somewhere, suddenly Google will say, divert your route, choose route B, it will save you 5 minutes. So because we have all this data, we are able to tap into insights and information that's non-sensitive for every user now to identify how best can you optimize on the spend. Yeah. And finally, with all this, we understand, right? You cannot be stuck in the whole pilot stage. So with Coupa, we always look into how we can accelerate results. And by that means is that every single implementation that we run today, a lot of them are remote. It's typically in the range of 4 to 8 months, depends on complexity. So you don't have to wait for years. Yeah, it's a matter of months, depends on the scope that you have. It ranges from 4 to 8 months, you can get business results. So that's pretty much all I want to share. And with that, thank you very much. And I'm open for questions. I'll hand the floor back to Bu Abe. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Raymond, for your valuable sharing. I jot down from your presentation that we all aware silos has been always a challenge in many organizations and has led to inefficient manual processing, limited spend visibility and control, and unknown risk exposure, which in turn will lead to value leakage in many organizations. It is important for many of us to overcome this problem. Unifying and bring together silos processes on our supply chain and business spending not only make our process more streamlined and efficient, but also will create value to customers that were previously both underutilized and unrealized. And this is what very important to CFO. You mentioned to us that CFO with this business spend management can ensure that every dollar spent will going to have giving value to our organization. This is very, very good. So ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Ellen will now play a short video to give you some insight on how business spend management work and help your spending to be more efficient and in turn drive value to your company. Ms. Ellen, you can start the video. Thank you.
Our spend is out of control. How do we manage it?
Every business is like a lemonade stand. I've got customers who love my product, employees to get the job done, and suppliers to bring us the stuff we need. Thanks, Jimmy. I manage all the spending in my business and control it easily. And I do it all with Coupa.
Coupa, huh? Why didn't we think of that? Frank, get her a chair.
Coupa, everything you need for business spend management.
Business spend often happens in silos, leading to poor visibility, lack of control, and less than optimal spend decisions. Coupa's comprehensive and unified business spend management platform eliminates the traditional silos of spend and puts the user in the center of everything. A common, intuitive user interface gives users one place to easily handle all direct and indirect spend activities across procurement, invoicing, expenses, and payments. A unified, connected transactional core brings synergistic benefits like effortless matching of POs to invoices, instant reconciliation and automatic payments, and prescriptions to better control spend. Being comprehensive means addressing the needs of all users involved in business spend and sharing data seamlessly. With a complete view of spend, spend analysis flags suspicious transactions and identifies opportunities to optimize spend categories through strategic sourcing. Supply chain design and planning decisions also tie in to strategic sourcing. Sourcing events are seamlessly converted into contracts, which are then used to enforce contract compliance during the procurement process. Both goods and services can be procured in Coupa, with all details of contingent labor spend tracked. Treasury management balances liquidity and risk to optimize working capital. A comprehensive view of third-party risk and performance lets you take corrective real-time action. Finally, inventory management lets you check availability of inventory during spend transactions. All built on a powerful cloud-native business spend management platform, made more valuable by Coupa's open architecture and a large and growing community of customers, suppliers, and partners. The collective data, wisdom, and spirit of this community enables collaboration opportunities like group sourcing. Coupa advantages instant savings from pre-negotiated rates with top suppliers and community intelligence. Coupa's unique AI-powered capabilities for instant prescriptive insights built on a platform processing trillions of dollars of cumulative spend. With the most comprehensive, unified capabilities and an unmatched community, Coupa's business spend management platform empowers companies to spend smarter and maximize the value of each dollar spent.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. My fellow CFOs and webinar participants, let's move on to the panel discussion. I would like to welcome back Mr. Heru Sutadi, Mr. Lalit, Mr. Raymond, and also to welcome Mr. Hengki Chiang from Amazon Web Service Indonesia as our panelists. In this session, I will address few curated questions prepared by the host to the panelists. My first question will go to Mr. Raymond and Mr. Lalit. To start our digital transformation, especially in the supply chains and procurement management, we need to do the change management. From your presentation earlier, we have learned that some companies has adopted business spending management platform. And I have to question to Pak Raymond. Pak Raymond, what strategies have been used by these companies to motivate their employees to adopt a cloud-based business spend management platform? Second, how do you get executive leadership to buy in? I think this question goes to Pak Lalit. Pak Lalit, would you like to answer the question? Thank you.
Yes, happy to do that. I think there are two separate questions in this, Boevi. One is, how do you look at cloud-based software and how do you actually get people to buy in around that? And the premise of having a cloud-based software rather than on-prem, very, very specifically tailored one for you is really playing around customer acceptance, customer delight, customer user experience to be really high. Right, and that's what we try and do. We try to bring the users front and center, and we talk to them, and we say, look, what is it that you want to do, and how will it play out? Right, that's number one. Number two, instead of doing customization, we move to configuration of the software. Right, so rather than saying I will make it exactly like you, I would basically sit with them. We have a sprint where we call all of them, we do a hackathon, and we say, okay, look, this is what you want to do. So you want to address, let's say, spend management, for example. This is the kind of PRs which will come. How do you classify them? This is the kind of decision making we need. How do you make the approval streams? How do you map them out, right? How does it work in your environment? Let's try and work through it through configuration, not through customization, right? Because whenever you customize, then you're making these small changes, which will then be super difficult to support in the future. Right? And when users are fully satisfied, that is where you have a lot of buy-in from them, and then they power the adaptation, adoption, and continuation of the process. Right? I think that the way to get leadership on board is really allaying the fears on security risks, which is very well documented now on a SaaS, right? And then you can easily kind of talk about what might go wrong and how do you actually prevent that here, and then also getting the users to advocate for it. And then that's really how you try to solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Lalit. I think if we want to adopt this cloud-based management, first we need to ask ourselves, whether we would like to go to customization, which is not really flexible to changes, or we would like to go to configuration. I think each companies will be different to answer this question. The next questions I would like to address to Mr. Raymond. Mr. Raymond, as we aware, COVID-19 and work from home has accelerated the need for digital means of performing tasks, daily jobs requests, approvals, and collaborations with suppliers, partners, and all should be done remotely and in a timely fashion. I wonder, how does a technology enable procurement and supply chain system help us adapt to this growing remote workforce? Please, Mr. Raymond, to share your view.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think COVID-19 last year, and in fact now, we are having waves that's coming through, right? Work from home is definitely, or remote working is definitely here to stay for a while. So what we have seen is that it has kind of like made tasks like approvals, contract signing, collaborating with the suppliers, and a lot of this more difficult. So what we are looking at is really, first of all, how do we enable folks who are not meeting face-to-face, not getting a paper or pen that comes through for signing, digitalized in a way that is easy to use. So ease of use of any application that comes through, right? For example, making sure that it's being mobile first, that's readily available on a mobile phone, on a smartphone or tablets, right? Will definitely help. And ensuring that this kind of application that comes through, right, is really as easy to use as Amazon or Zalora or any of the application that we buy online, right? So it's basically a touch, scrub around, and you can get the information that you need easily. So a lot of this application somehow today are a lot cloud-based SaaS application. Now, why is it important is because back to the point when Lalit was talking about the user experience, or UI is important, right? Because if you have something there and it's not easy for a user to quickly just pick up and use intuitive, you have a lot of training that has to be put through. And training is usually where the problem is, right? New users come, new users go. And especially in a tool where you're talking about source to procurement, right? Source to pay, you have an ecosystem of suppliers, right? That comes in and goes out. So you got to make sure that it's easily used and adopt. And another point that is super important is trust, right? If I use application and I want to ensure the data is input correctly, you need to have an audit trail or audit note for all transaction and stuff that goes through. So this helps drive compliance and governance for the business, and it's transparent for all. Yeah, thanks, Ibu Abi.
Thank you very much, Pak Raymond. That is very useful. Any other panelists would like to add to these questions? Maybe Pak Heru, Lalit, or Pak Hengki to answer the question. Otherwise, I will move on to next questions.
Bu Evi, you are on mute right now.
Pak Heru, I would like to have your insight on regulation in Indonesia regarding cloud-based adoption. Although you have already mentioned in your presentation earlier, but I would like to know, is there any differences between companies or industries about this regulation, and is there any like advantages that some industries can use or can like twist from the regulation? Thank you, Pak. Heru still mute.
Thank you, Bu Evi, for the question. Yeah, I think in Indonesia, the government of Indonesia encouraged that we use cloud because as we know that cloud part of the revolution industry 4.0. So, and I already mentioned about the benefit if we use cloud before. But the government, I think, concerned about where we put the server or data center. Yeah, before every company or every sector, they have to put data center in Indonesia. But with the new regulation, government regulation number 71 2019, they try to separate which one that's more strategic for the government, which one that's maybe free, little bit free lah. So for the private, it's okay. So you can put your data center everywhere. Government concerned about you have to protect the data. Only that maybe. But for the public, little bit strict that you have to process, manage the data, everything in Indonesia. But even that, if you use the new technology that's not available in Indonesia, so you can put outside Indonesia. But government concerned that if they need some data, maybe about if there is something like misalnya something like that, so they can get the data. Besides of that, so government also concerned about the security. So even you put the data outside Indonesia, the security is must, and government concern, we have to fulfill the government concern. But in Indonesia, a little bit strict. That's for the financial sector, you know, because the financial sector, they have their own regulation, especially under OJK or the Central Bank of Indonesia. It's like maybe for the bank, you have to put data center in Indonesia, and they can check the data center, something like that, in maybe every month, every 2 months, something like that. So yeah, in Indonesia, except for the finance sector, is little bit free right now, and changed from the regulation before. For the finance sector, yes, still I think right now.
Okay, so for the non-financial sectors, the cloud-based business is a little bit more flexible and is depending on the companies what to choose and what is the more efficient and more suitable for the companies. Right. That is good. I think good news for us. And also, but the Indonesian government as well concerned about the security. So there is no question about the security as well about this. Thank you. Mr. Henki, do you want to add for this question?
Yeah, the most regulated sector for in Indonesia is actually financial services. There are some other regulated industry, which is the oil and gas upstream, especially for the upstream, right? Government wants to protect the intellectual property, right? Resulted from the research in the upstream oil and gas industry as well. But having said that, today with the announcement of most of the cloud service providers that they're going to invest in Indonesia, in fact, AWS, for example, is going to be ready in the second half. Few more months to come, AWS will have its region in Indonesia. This will be totally mitigated, right? So we are, like, for example, AWS is going to be able to meet the government regulation, including OJK, that all the workloads needs to run onshore, actually. So, and the second question is about who are going to be benefited from this cloud, right? Which industry? I would say most of the industry, if not all, yeah, would benefit, because cloud provides the customers, right, especially the small ones, small medium business startups, the ability to enter the business, right, the lower the barrier of entrance into the business. So most of the startup and SMB are able to leverage technology to run their business. Is instead, compared to the in the past, right? When there's no cloud, organization needs to spend a huge amount of money, capex, to prepare the IT infrastructure to support the business. Now it's no longer the case. All the companies, we level the playing field for every organization now to compete, to be innovative, and then win the business, right? By allowing them to enter the business easily just paying whatever they use in a very low OPEX base compared to the previous one. You need to spend huge amount of money to run your business. Yeah, that's.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Hengki. That is very good news for CFOs because CFOs is always love to hear about the low initial business capex, you know. And also, my key point is this cloud business is level playing field to everybody. So whether we are is a big companies or we are small companies, we are now have the same opportunities to enter to digital transformation. Don't worry about you know, having initial capital expenditure to have your own servers and data center. You can use cloud. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We call pay as you grow.
Yes,
Pay
and
as
then
you
we
grow.
let's grow together and grow the economic of Indonesia.
That's right.
That is the key point of this discussion, and I think that will end our panel discussion. And now I would like to invite the participants. Maybe you have any question to the panelists. You can just raise your hand and open your video and unmute your speakers. Thank you.
Evi, there is a question from Pak Prawira. Is there any business case that can be shared for cost versus benefit? The question is from the chat here.
I think Pak Prawira, can you raise the question by yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chief Evi. Yeah, I think if you are talking to CFO, they will always talk about the cost or the investment that is required, and usually this type of thing cannot be decided by the CFO themselves, but let's say in a locally owned company, then the owner is the decision maker, and owner usually, if it is so the first generation, they are very calculative in terms of investment or capital expenditure. So I think it is no doubt that the benefits of digital transformation, cloud computing, and everything this is something that we cannot avoid, and there is only benefit, right? But in the corporation, you need to also prepare some business proposal, some calculation, things like that. Of course, I understand that we cannot always quantify everything. Some are qualitative in nature, but I think if there is something that can be shared to all of us to give some kind of an illustration, yeah, on what is the investment required, and we heard already on the change management part, but I think on the money part, we also need to get some feeling. Thank you.
Okay, it's very good question, Pa, because this CFO's question, I think, and I would like to add, if it is okay, I would like to add to the Pak Prawira question. So whether it is to Pak Raymond, Pak Lalit, or Pak Hengki, so what is actually the key performance indicators to measure to ensure that our investment is a good investment? That is very important to CFO. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can start off. I'll probably share one document that we put forward on screen, and for participants who wants it, we can share this online, and we will forward that to you later. So in Coupa, right, what we do really is to help organization not just implement a system like it is, right? ROI discussion is always real. Yeah, and it all depends on what areas, right? So it all starts with the challenges and the needs of the current organization. If some point in time is what we want is to look into, say, for example, oops, too fast, areas where we talk through spend visibility, I can't control, right? Then we do go into a point where we look at, okay, how do we look at the KPIs that is driven by structured spend? So in structured spend, we probably have a definition that say, this is how we run and ensure that you have contractual spend that comes through, how you catalog it, why does it matter, and what does it mean, right? And once we have this, a couple of KPIs designed, right? Obviously, we have got so many of them. No way you will do everything at one go, maybe 5, depends on the immediate needs. This is where the whole pilot discussion comes through, and then the scale part that comes later. In Coupa, we do not run a project, like I said earlier, without any of this kind of KPI discussion or ROI work on, right? So once we have done that, we will work together and collaborate with the organization. And typically, CFO, finance director will be part of the whole collaborative exercise, because these numbers are not our number, right? It's the company's number. But what we help is to take a framework that we have put in place, benchmark that we have done in Coupa, because at the end of the day, it's data, right? In your industry, what are they? How do we put that forward? And with this whole business case as being put forward, right, you will be able to adjust that. Is this too aggressive an estimate to make? Do I need to be more conservative? It's all a discussion. And once that is done, we start small and say, let's prove that this works. And this is what we do in Coupa really well. We call it a test drive, right? We run a hands-on session even now when all users are working remote. We can do it on Zoom. We can do it on Teams, right? Users get an experience to look at a day in life of a buyer, for example, or day in life as a, in this case, an executive who do request and approval, right? And we run that through and say, these are the KPI that you will touch upon, and this is how we help. So number one, you get to decide what it is, what is important. Number two, you see how that works. Number three, you really get a feel of that going, right? Before you decide and say, hey, let's move on to this project. Yeah, that's a little bit I like to share. So I can send a link to Bu Evi later. If participants and Pravira likes it, we can share this document. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. I think I would like Mr. Lalit to share based on his experience to help his customers, maybe in some companies, to answer Pak Prawira Atmaja regarding the investments and the values they have applying this platform. Thank you.
Thanks, Bu Evi, and thanks, Pak Pravira, for this question. Look, in my experience, right, if you do this right, if you do the sizing right of what you need to do, your ROI or payback is within 1 year. Your payback should not be more than 2 years. And then what you're really looking at is, what is the value loss that I'm having, and in which part of my S2P process, right? And then I invest in that place, and I need to make that change happen. So for example, if you do spend analytics, right, and then we use the spend management solution, what is going to change in my day-to-day life? And that links to the KPI question that Bu Evi was asking. So for example, we saw a KPI just now, which is on-contract spend, right? And typically I've seen on-contract spend at about 20% or less than 20%. If that on-contract spend goes to about 80%, that means that whatever I buy comes through an existing frame contract, which I've negotiated beforehand, without any emergency pressure, without any user pressure, and have enough time to negotiate it thoroughly, right? I would expect at least a 10% saving on my entire spend, because I consolidate all the volumes, I put it on a frame contract, and I get the result. So imagine if your spend contract coverage went from 20%, 25% to about 60, 70% or 80%. That's a huge amount of saving that you would get out of it. But you need to link this. It is not that I spent the money on the solution and then I wash my hands off it, right? What is the intended changes which will happen, and how will that drive it? And then there are intermediate KPIs. For example, are my BUs buying at different prices the same item? If it's the same kind of item which I'm buying at different prices from different suppliers, and if all of that is true, then obviously I'm not rationalized, I've not kind of done enough to drive efficiency in my buying system. And all that spend transparency which you get from the spend analytics software, the spend management software, needs to then be driven into execution of policies, measures, activities which get me to that point. So that is what needs to happen. And when you do that very clearly, with a very sharp focus on what you need to change, your ROI should be 100%, right? So I mean, you should not basically go beyond a year in terms of recovering your money.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Lalit. So is the success of this adoption as well is depending on the change management and how our people buy in and then to adopt this application. I think I would like to welcome Miss Anna. I think Miss Anna raise a question to Mr. Heru. Miss Anna, can you raise your question directly to Mr. Heru regarding cloud-based system? Or otherwise, I will read it for you. Okay, Miss Anna question is to Pak Heru. She asks, what kind of data that can or cannot be put in cloud system? Is there any specific data or all of them for finance company? I think for finance company is okay as long as the cloud system is in Indonesia, Pak, ya, the server. But is there any like I think she's worried about the risk. Is there any data that we cannot like put in cloud system or otherwise all data is okay? Thank you, Pak Heru.
Yeah, I think the concept of the cloud computing is it's mean that you don't have your own server, you don't have your own data center. So maybe you can rent or maybe you can use a sharing data center or server with another company, something like that. So I think even for the financial sector, I think it's okay if you use a cloud system as long as you can control that cloud system. It means that maybe you use like maybe AWS, something like that. So the authority they have they want, if they want to check your cloud, where you put the cloud, or maybe they want to check the security, something like that. So it's okay for them. So it's not difficult for them, I mean. So every kind of the services in Indonesia can be put it in the cloud, but not the problem. I think the regulation is only regulate where you put the data center. But right now, for private, you can put everywhere in the world. For the public, even government, they have they issue the regulation that you have to put data center in Indonesia. But if you think that the technology it can be used, or maybe you have the different technology that the data center in Indonesia have, so you can put also outside Indonesia. The important thing is about the security and government. If government wants to know about maybe any data, something like that, so you can provide the data. I think that's all, Bu Evi.
Thank you very much, Pak Heru. I think this is very quite important and interesting discussion. Everybody, I understand that would still have, would like to still extend the session, but unfortunately the time is up. So if you have any further inquiries, I think Pak Heru, Pak Raymond, Pak Lalit, Pak Heki Chang, and also para Patra, Mitra, Konsulindo will available for your other inquiries offline. Miss Ellen, would you please share the screen for the contact person for further inquiries? Okay, if you have further, if you need further information, you can contact Patra Mitra Konsulindo on the number here. Thank you very much for your attendance. I hope you have found this webinar beneficial for you and your organization. Have a wonderful day and successful business for all of you. Please stay safe and sound. Don't forget to always impose health protocol. Wear mask. Be always maintain your hygiene and stay distant. See you on next CFO Club webinar. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Very nice webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Evi.
Thank you, Ibu Nurni,
Thank you,
Pak
all
Latif,
panelists.
Pak Prawira, Pak
Terima
Raymond,
kasih, Bu.
dan Pak Edi. Thank
Sukses.
you, Bu Elin. Thank you, Ibu Iwanita. Thank you, CFO Club Indonesia. And I hope the next webinar will be more participants to come and attend the webinar. Thank you. Pak Arya, thank you.
Salam sehat untuk semua ya.
Ya, salam
Thank
sehat.
you, Chief Evi.
protokol kesehatan, pakai masker, ya, cuci tangan, dan keep distance.
Oke,
Ya,
bye.
thank you. Bye, bye, bye. Bu Elin, you can close the Zoom meeting.